Well, Jenny, thank you very much for being here. I will took the chance and ask you, as someone who worked quite for some time with the topic reflective learning and reflective writing, on asking you the question, what is actually reflective learning? Maybe you could just put that into some bullet points or some short sentences.
Okay. Well, as I say, there is a definition I've used, and I think I'm going to mostly talk about that because otherwise I could go into all sorts of theoretical backgrounds which aren't going to be helpful. I think when we reflect, we largely think about learning we've already done and reorganise that and think about that. And as I've said to you, I've used the term cognitive housekeeping, a way of reordering what we know already. I might reach for further information, but generally speaking, it's reworking what I know already. And that conflicts with some of the theoretical positions used by other people. I think we reflect on what is uncertain or is ill-structured knowledge. It's not, it's like thinking. But I wouldn't, for example, say I want to reflect on the route to the bus stop. I'd plan it or think about it. But actually, if I'm disabled, it becomes a complex question, and therefore I might reflect on one route as opposed to another. And I think emotion is in reflection, but in lots of different ways. There are lots of relationships between learning and emotion. It's not a simple relationship at all. I mean, we reflect on what we learn, we feel emotion as a result of reflecting. We are inhibited in our reflection by emotional issues, all that sort of thing. I think we also, reflection is also a process. I think we sometimes decide to reflect on something and reflect through and then come out with some sort of response, or we might think, well, I'll reflect further on that. Or sometimes I don't want to lose the meaning of just sort of common sense reflection when we're sitting lazing around on a sunny day and thoughts come to us and we reflect for a while and then either leave them or come to some sort of conclusion. So I think those elements come into reflection. I think when reflection is used in an academic context, there are other issues that come into it, like very often we'd need some short bit of description to say what the reflection is going to be about. So although we're not trying to get description from students, we're actually wanting them to reflect. We do need them to be good at writing that little bit of description. I also think that when they know that somebody else is going to look at what they've reflected on, that will change what they write or how they reflect. But they will have been forced to do that reflecting in the first place. So you might not, as a tutor, get what really happened, but nevertheless, by asking for a reflective writing from students, they will have had to reflect on the issue.
May I just jump in here? Why, in your opinion, reflective learning is of such an importance, actually?
I think reflecting on learning is really useful because we need to be assessing where we are in relation to knowledge. It's a way of thinking about what do I know, how do I know it, what is the quality of my knowing. And it builds towards the making of the independent judgments that I've said I think is so important. I think as professionals, people need to be able to make independent judgments. And part of learning to make those independent judgments is actually to build up a confidence in our ability to reflect on our knowledge and the quality of that knowledge.
Mm-hmm. You said two issues that I think they combine actually what you said. That was the cognitive housekeeping. You said about
the cognitive housekeeping.
Yeah,
is a
I like very much.
When I say I think we reflect on what we know already, mm-hmm. I would also use that term cognitive housekeeping. It's a reordering of what we know. And also we've talked, of course, about Harry Potter's pensieve, which is a very useful concept as well.
And in this context, I was just wondering about this. There are two terms that I think come up for me. The one is the complexity and the issue of, I don't know if reducing is possible, but still the issue of complexity we deal with, also with knowledge and knowledge production. And the other one is the the issue of uncertainty. You said that, I think, once also. How would you combine them with reflective learning or judgment?
Well, I would suggest that, I mean, not directly, but I would say that people's increasing ability to think, increasing sophistication along the progression towards sophisticated professional thinking. I think that is supported by reflection, and it supports reflection in depth. And I haven't mentioned that I think reflection has a depth dimension to it. Superficial reflection is very descriptive. It doesn't actually really it doesn't deal in depth with anything. Deep reflection is much more fundamental and examines itself. It is reflexive as well. It looks at other viewpoints. It is much broader in review. It relates to prior experience. And I think that to develop independent judgment, one has to be reasonably sophisticated in one's ability to think and to use that sort of deep reflection. Equally, I think to reflect at depth, you need to be fairly well advanced in your thinking skills.
Well, Jenny, then I say thank you very much for your time and for your words about reflective learning. Thank you.
You're welcome.